future of Clark's? And I have come to realize that this is just a polite way of saying, Cal, do you realize you're getting old?
Oh, really?
It seemed to start about 10 or 12 years ago. We'd go to the shows and people would say, it's a good thing you got your name on because you don't look like the pictures in the catalog. So that was the start of it. Then a couple of years ago we were doing a show in Helen, Georgia. Joan and I started selling at 7:30 in the morning. At 7:30 at night we had 2 bites of food, 2 swallows of drink, and we were still selling parts. A guy came over and he said, Cal, I've been watching you and your wife since 7:30 this morning. He says, you've worked 12 hours straight. He said, do you mind if I ask you how old you are? I said, no, I don't mind. I said, I'm 63. He says, well, you just wait until you're my age, he says. And I thought a second. I said, well, it's not going to be that impolite. He asked me. I said, well, how old are you? Oh, I'm 65. I also had an experience. When I turned 50, I said, I can't live in the Northeast and not ski. Joan and I had never skied. So we went to a small resort, and I went up to the ski desk and I said, I'm 50 years old, I've never skied, I don't care if it takes me 2 days. I said, give me somebody that's got patience. So if you've ever gone skiing, you know you can't see much of the person. They got goggles on and helmets on, and so for a day and a half, this guy was teaching us to ski. The last day I'm riding up on the lift with him. We were just talking, and I said, well, how much do you actually ski? And he said, I'm out here at 7:30 in the morning checking the slopes. He says, I'm here at 4 to check the slopes to make sure nobody's left on the mountain. And he says, I'm doing it 6 days a week. I said, wow. I said, that sounds like a lot. He says, yeah. He says, but I'd like to be doing it 7 days a week. He says, don't say anything, but I think they hold it against me because I'm 84. Well, I don't know what there is about this skiing thing, but about 5 years ago, Joan and I were in a small ski resort eating lunch. We're sitting down next to some guys that obviously forgot to put their hearing aids in that day. I happened to notice on one of them, it said the Over 80 Club. So we're listening to them. One of them says, where's Joe today? It's a perfect day. The other guy says, Joe's at the ski boot shop. The other guy said, what fool would be wasting his money when he's 93 years old on ski boots? So I think everybody's just trying to be polite. Cal, what's the future of Clark's? And obviously, I don't know what the future's going to be, but I do know that we've spent 39 years trying to build an honest-to-goodness business. We've got 2 people working for us now that have been with us 35 years full-time. That's Kathy and Sharon. We've got Linda, who is just 30 years this month. Judy was 30 years a year ago and retired. We've got Pearl, Nadine, Mark, and Kurt that are all 25 to 30 years. We've got Barb, Donna, and John that are 20 to 25 years. Now, I haven't worked at a lot of businesses, but I think to have that many people that have been with us that long means that either we're doing something right or they really like what they're doing. And I think it's a combination. When my people come to work, I don't hear complaints. I don't babysit them. They know why they're there, and they try to do the best job they can. For the last 15 years, Joan and I have gone out of our way to stay out of their way. Okay? I'm not going to babysit them. They have got to know what to do, and they do it. And I think that's probably the most important thing that we've done for the future of Clark's, is the people that are there run Clark's. I go in with ideas of what I need for parts for the cars I'm working on, and I say, this is what we're going to reproduce, but they do 99% of the work. We've also started getting them to going around doing the shows. And Barb and Nadine just did the National in Denver a year ago by themselves. Kathy and Mark came out to this show last year. They also did Helen, Georgia, and they did a Michigan show this year. And the people really love coming out to the shows, meeting the people. Barb's doing our catalog now. 6 months she's got into the catalog. We almost lost Barb 10 years ago because we weren't making her work hard enough. Now, to almost lose an employee that was complaining because they weren't working hard enough, I need more of those people. And so we did get her back, and we're extremely happy about that. We currently are waiting, hopefully this coming month, we are going to be turning on an 80 kW photovoltaic system at Clark's Corvair Parts in the field above our buildings. This is estimated to give us 100 to 125% of our electrical usage. That's part of how sure we are of what we're doing, that we're going to be here if you guys keep supporting us. So we're really excited to start turning that system on. For those of you that don't know how big that is, that's 4 rows, 12 feet high by 110 feet long. And for out east, that's a pretty big voltaic system. Another thing that I think will help with the future of Clark's is, from day one, Joan and I always planned for the worst, but worked and hoped for the best. So, for example, with our computer system, not only do we have mirroring hard drives, which means there's 2 hard drives in there. If one goes down, we instantaneously go to the other one. As well as that, we have a complete separate file server. So if the file server goes down, we can switch over. Things like this that we really do to try to keep ourselves up and going. We also have gone out of our way as far as business insurance. We have a business continuation insurance policy that if the worst thing ever happened, we can keep all 25 employees employed for 6 months, even if we weren't doing anything. And for years, we always felt that we were kind of at a disadvantage because we've got 8 buildings. And just a few years ago, we started to think about it. Having 8 buildings is really a benefit because our possible loss is spread out over 8 buildings. And if we ever had a serious loss, we've got other buildings that we've got contingency plans. None of us have any business background, and none of us will claim to. But about 10 years ago, I paid to have a specialty company come in because we all knew that we had no background. They gave us a list of 10 things that they suggested that we should do. Number 1, they said that we were paying our vendors too soon. They said, make your vendors sweat. Don't pay them right up front. Let them wait a few weeks. Then go and ask them for a better discount. And I'm kind of like, are you crazy? The next thing was, you've got too many people that have been here too long. We suggest that you consider getting rid of some of the people. About that time, I was ready to kick the guy in the behind, ask for my money back, and just run him out of the building. I could not believe the suggestions coming from this guy, and the only thing that was good about it is I've never let another business consulting place come in. To us, Customers are first, and employees and vendors are right there tied next. And with no business training, that's just the way we feel it has to be. As far as reproductions, I think in the last 5 to 7 years, we have probably done more significant reproductions than I ever would have expected that we would have done. We've done motor mounts, we've done a lot of trim, we have just started paying for the tooling for the wagon hinge covers. We have got coming out sometime next year exact repros of the 66 to 69 rocker panel trims. We've done the early axle bearings. We've done the early FC axle bearings, which I need to warn people, we're down to 225 axle bearings, and the next time I wanted to rerun them, they said I had to do 1,000 sets, and I cannot afford 1,000 sets. So that's going to be it on the FC axle bearings. A lot of the trim we've done is actually nicer quality. Every once in a while, things don't go right. The biggest goof up we've ever had, we just had this year. Some of you may have heard that we pulled the FC gas tanks off the market. The first ones, the prototypes were fantastic. The first few that we started opening up were fantastic, so we started shipping them. And we started realizing that there were some iffy welds. And I've asked for all of them back. So far, 325 FC gas tanks have been crushed and destroyed. And the money is out there with a new company that's a more proven company. And I think we're going to have them by next spring. But this is the type of thing that a business like ours tries not to have happen. I was dealing with a place that we've dealt with for 15 years, and it's obvious to me that something went wrong there. And you've just got to be willing to face the facts that things aren't perfect, and what are you going to do? In this case, we said, no, it's not worth it, but we are going to have those gas tanks. So hopefully by next May or June, we'll have the gas tanks. The new catalog, Barb has been working on for 6 months. I've been making all the changes. Everything that's in all the old supplements, any things that were confusing for people, we're trying to improve them in the catalog. Then it will go to the website. We're hoping that will be ready by March. I think as far as the future, I hope that Joan and I have done everything that's necessary. My employees can certainly take care of it. It's basically going to come down to, do we have customers? Do we have orders? The actual long, I think the best project that we ever did was the fiberglass insulation. That we broke even in 3 years. The late model door sills, which hadn't been available for probably 15 or 20 years, that took us almost 5 years to break even. Then to go back and make another run, and I hate to say it, but quite often it takes anywhere from 4 to 8 years before we go back for reorders. Quite often the company's out of business, or they've thrown away our tooling, of all things. And they say, well, we can't keep everybody's tooling forever. So between lost companies and companies that thrown out tooling, I would guess probably in 40 years we've lost $250,000. And people say, well, why don't you take the tooling back? We probably have right now 500 pieces of tooling through the United States and the world. We would have to pay to bring them back, which sounds like that would be the thing to do, but quite often we find if the company's no longer in business, it costs almost as much to get that tooling adapted to other machinery as it does to have the new company start all over again. So that's the problem that you run into as far as reproduction projects. And why when I say that this might be the only run, I'm not just saying that to speed up sales. It's entirely possible that we just can't afford to ever make another run. So just be forewarned. I'm not just saying that to increase the sales. Are there any questions while you got me here captured that anyone wants to answer or ask? Yes.
What do you see about the future of the 185/80 13 tires?
We're currently talking with one company. We have contacted personally every tire company that I know of. I don't understand the tire industry whatsoever. We were getting, I think it was Koyo tires, which were a pretty nice tire. We got them in date coded only a year ago, and when we contacted them, they said, no, we can't make any more. And I'm going, but you made them a year ago. I don't think you made an awful lot. Nobody but nobody will talk to us for under 10 to 15,000 tires. I got one guy now that thinks he can do it for 5,000 tires. But if you figure 5,000 tires towards, times whatever it's going to cost me, plus you run the risk of if they don't sell, are they going to be too old by the time you sell the last ones? We're talking with some of the smaller custom tire companies. They make some 13-inch, but almost all of them do the wide white wall. And I'm trying to get through their heads that there's only a limited number of people that want the wide white walls. They want narrower white walls. And right now, when I get back, I've got a call from one of the companies that I'm hoping is going to say that they're willing to do 500 or 1,000 tires. But there's very limited within the U.S. and when you get out of the U.S., I guess it's 10, 15, 20,000 tires is considered a minimum order. So right now that's the best information I've got. Anything else? Any questions? I'm brave. I'm a teacher. I don't care. Yeah.
I see that they're making not reproduction, but in the hot rod industry they make all these cylinder heads for even the most obscure engines like wide block Fords. What would it take to make new cylinder heads for Corvairs?
We've honestly never looked into it. I don't understand how some of these projects get done for some of the really limited production things. I don't know if anybody's actually making money on these places that are making full Mustang bodies and full Camaro bodies. I guess maybe they can. I don't know how they can do it. So maybe in a few years we'd consider it. It seems as though we've always got so many things that we can do that I didn't think cylinder heads were right up there yet. Anyone else?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've considered running a Corvair restoration or repair shop.
No.
How many people ask you that?
I repaired Volkswagens and Covairs before we started this business. I'm surprised I had enough money to start this business. No, especially the way I would want to do a restoration. Every restoration would probably be a $50,000 restoration. I have a problem that once I start, I can't stop until anything that's questionable is replaced. So, no, I don't see it in the future. Any other questions? Yes?
You do some Riviera stuff now. Do you have any other cars in mind for your expanding your business?
The only reason we got into the Riviera is I've got a Riviera that I thought I was going to restore. Well, I've had that 20 years. It's not restored. I got too many Corvairs yet to do. But half of the interiors material that we have for Corvairs can be used in the Riviera. And I knew it wasn't going to be a giant business. So it's a nice filler that helps us with the vinyl. But at any given time, we normally have between $300,000 and $500,000 in vinyl and headliner and the related items that go into making interiors. So we just needed a little bit extra filler, and that's the only reason we did the Riviera. Plus, I now can get a set if I ever get to the restoration. Any other questions? Yeah?
I noticed you restored a ramp side. Could you share with us maybe some of the challenges you had with your ramp side, restoring it?
The ramp side that we restored, we had used for 12 years in New England winters. It was our company truck for the 12 years. It then had to sit outside for a couple of years after that. It was a rust bucket. If I hadn't ruined it, I wouldn't have restored it. If somebody else had left it in this shape, I would have said, God, that is ugly. But we had to replace the whole side. On the left side, both wheel openings in front, rear quarters on both sides. We had to do some repairs to the bed, and we even had to take the panel that the spare tire mounts on. We had to remove that panel, and if anyone can figure out how to do that without cutting the lip of the cab, I'd love to know, because we looked at it and pondered it for 4 days to figure out how to get that out so we could get down inside to the floor to repair the floor correctly. So it was a challenge, and I think I added another 75 parts that we didn't have during that restoration. The next restoration that I've got planned is 61 wagon. Yeah.
That was my question.
61 wagons next, yeah. I've got a definite car habit problem, I'll admit. I should be in Autos Anonymous. I ran out of space, so now 5 of my Corvairs are on multiple pallet racks that I put together and then decked it with a movable lift, so I can move my lift over and put the cars on top of the other cars that are below them. Unlike Jay Leno, I don't have unlimited funds, so I have to be creative as far as that's concerned. Any other questions, or I should get out of here? Because being a teacher, I'm programmed for 50-minute sessions, and I don't want to keep you that long. It's not being used every day, but we do drive it every day. That's fairly, I mean, I don't mind if I get caught out in a rainstorm, but if they're saying, you know, we're going to get 3 inches of rain, then no, I'm not going to drive it out that day. But we drive it everywhere, and, you know, the comment I get is, why are you driving it? I'm going, because it's probably worth less than my everyday car, and why shouldn't I drive it?
Can you tell us the story briefly of how that truck came to be parked for all the years?
Yeah.
Before you bought it.
Yeah. The ramp side was bought by a man that had always had just Chevrolet trucks. He ran a trucking company, a construction company. He had full-size Chevy dump trucks. He had Chevy pickup trucks. And when the ramp side came out, he thought it would be a nice addition to his trucking company. So he bought one. And at about 9,000 miles, which was about 9 months for him, the crankshaft broke. Took it to his dealer. The dealer took the motor out. General Motors got back and said, tough luck. We think you must have been too rough on it. The guy was so upset that he backed it in the back of his trucking building, switched to Fords, would not have another thing to do with Chevy. And what we have learned since is that there were some defective 1961 cranks, and Chevrolet shouldn't have been so stupid. So we finally saw it advertised in Hemmings in 1972, and it had sat in the back of his building up until that point. And that's why it was Omaha Orange, which Joan and I said, you know, yes, it may be the only one left in the country that's Omaha Orange, but I can't live with Omaha Orange. So it's now Romany Red, which is a deep kind of maroon with a white stripe. Any other questions? I don't get out of here. Okay, well, Joan and I would both like to thank you very much. And you better believe that if we make it to 93, we're going to be wasting our money on ski boots. And those are true stories. I didn't make them up. True stories.